Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Hoops HQ show. Seth Davis, along with my buddy Andy Katz, with you on Fubo TV, YouTube, Spotify, everywhere that you get your podcasts. We are now in the month of February, and you know what is coming next. So we got lots to break down. Later in the show, we are going to be joined by the head coach of the Michigan Wolverines, Mr. Dusty May, fresh off of their win at Michigan State over the weekend. Lots of topics to talk about right off the top, Andy. I want to start with the big game over the weekend was BYU at Kansas, the big Darren Peterson, AJ DeBonsa matchup. The good news is we were treated to that matchup. The bad news is it was only for about 20 minutes because while Darren Peterson was sensational in the first half, he scored 18 points. About 3.5 minutes in, he told Bill Self that once again, he's developing cramps. He sat the last 16.5 minutes. They had a big lead at the time. BYU made it interesting. Kansas was able to win the game. But once again, dealing with this odd cramping injury with respect to Darren Peterson. What is your take on his situation? How concerned are you that this is just a problem that's not going to go away?
Well, yeah, definitely concerned. And I can tell you, as someone who did cramp in 3 of the 4 marathons that I ran, it is not fun to cramp at all. And not easy to continue competing or running or what have you during it. You got to fight through it. It's not easy. I'm not a professional athlete. I'm not destined to make multi-millions. So I get it. I get why they're being even more cautious with him. He obviously knows his own body. He had the hamstring, now, if I'm not mistaken, earlier, and now he's got the cramps. So, yeah, I mean, this is an issue, actually, you could argue, like Kansas's, athletic training department, like they got to get this under control about why he is cramping more often than not. But look, he's not alone. And I mean, we just got done with the Australian Open. Yannick Sinner cramps all the time. And he's one of the best athletes in the world, one of the best, top 2 tennis player in the world. And for some reason, he cramps all the time. So something's going on here. But I get why Peterson is being very cautious. And we're in an era, by the way, where the coach does not have control. It's that simple. The players have control. It's a new era. So if a player can't play, doesn't want to play, is hurt, it's them. It's their call.
Yeah, and I can tell you, having spoken with Bill Self about this a couple of times, I mean, he's as perplexed as anybody. It's a real head scratcher. There's a different decision to be made on January 31st, and if it's a Sweet 16 game, you can maybe try to push through. Anybody criticizing Peterson for what's happening is just wrong, just factually wrong. He wants to play. He wants to go to a Final Four. This is not about shutting it down for the NBA. It is about being cautious and not re-injuring something that then puts you out for another few weeks. All right, let's move on. The big off-the-court news. Well, on Sunday, we can say that Alabama got destroyed at Florida with Charles Bediako playing. The big event happens on Friday. The previous judge recused himself. He was an Alabama donor, but there's going to be an injunction hearing on Friday. Reports that Amari Bailey, former UCLA player, has said he's going to try to come back. He's actually played in the NBA, so a lot going on. How big is Friday's hearing in your view, Andy, and what are the ramifications?
I think it's a absolutely monumental hearing that people are not really grasping how serious it is. Again, we've discussed this. I think it's just absolutely ridiculous on so many levels that if someone is trying to play after being in college, so that is Bediako, that's Amari Bailey, anyone that has been in college that chose to leave, you made a decision. I don't care if you were 18, 19, you had maybe parents, guardians, someone told you to do it. You agreed to do so, and you left for the money and the chance to be a pro. You move on. You want to go back and get your degree? Great, but not to play college basketball. To me, it's a clear line. I just cannot fathom how people keep comparing this to these other examples. And that's a larger issue. If you don't want G League, if you don't want Euros, if you don't want someone who never played in college, they're all in one group. The guys that played in college and left and want to come back, they're another group. If they win this case, then it really could open the floodgates. But I'll tell you who's not speaking up right now, and that's the school presidents and the athletic directors, because they are complicit here. No one has to play college basketball. You have to be admitted. You have to be technically in a class. And if you're a president of a university or an athletic director, you can easily say, we are not admitting you. Not to play. Apparently, we're leaving that up to the courts. But to admit to, you can't sue to be a student at USC or wherever. You can't do that. The judge can't say, oh, you have to admit this student. That doesn't happen. So these schools could decide not to admit these students if they're not going to be, students because they were professional.
Nobody
I,
likes the fact that a random judge. How can you begrudge somebody using every means? Someone like Amari Bailey can make millions of dollars by challenging it in court. Why would you tell them not to do that because of some higher principle? Because Andy Katz and Seth Davis and other people in college basketball don't like it. I mean, that's what the courts are for, right?
well,
I mean, I don't like
I
any
think
of
it's
this.
weak. I think
don't like any of this.
If you're Amari Bailey, I'm sorry, you do not have the strength to clearly be a professional because
So
you're
why
giving
wouldn't
up.
he want to? That's why he wants to come back to
Because
college and make millions of
move on
dollars.
with your
Why
life.
should he
Move
move
on with your
on?
life
Why? Why? He can make
because
millions of
that's life.
dollars.
That's life. Move
No,
on.
this is life. The life is you have a court. You can take someone to court and you can sue for the ability to do something. I mean, to blame Amari Bailey and Charles Bediako for what's going on. I mean, it's like
If I'm
I don't.
UCLA, if I'm Marty German or Greg Byrne, you know, you are way opening a can of worms. You think it's going to stop here? I'm telling you. You
Well,
just wait. You wait, Greg Byrne. You wait at Alabama until Auburn football takes a football player off the practice squad or played in a game for the Jets, Falcons, you name it, and then he beats you in the Iron Bowl. Watch.
Well, you're opening up a legal can of worms, by the way, if you're going to start denying students admission to your school. Like, you better have a really good reason to deny admission.
Okay.
You don't have to play them, you don't have to recruit them. But anyway, let's move on. It's a good discussion. Big day on Friday. I'm hoping the judge rules against Bediako and says that the NCAA has the legal right to declare you ineligible based on the rules that you already know. That is my hope for the outcome. I don't blame players for trying to take advantage of the court system. You can get a lot more of this type of content and conversation over at HoopsHQ.com. We got a 66% sale on our first annual subscription, $20.26 for a full year. Go to HoopsHQ.com/subscribe. Andy and I will be right back with Dusty May after this. And welcome back to the Hoops HQ show. Seth Davis and Andy Katz now joined by the head coach of the Michigan Wolverines, Mr. Dusty May, fresh off of their triumph in East Lansing. Everybody saw Dusty come out before the game and enjoy himself with the fans in the zone. Dusty, first of all, thanks for being on the show. It was a fantastic game. You guys were pretty much in control of the game throughout. They made a great run in the second half, and you pulled away. What's the most important thing you learned about your team on Saturday?
Well, we stayed extremely poised, and typically when you blow the lead like we did, they make a run and they're able to get over the hump. Usually you're not able to respond, or at least it seems that way. And our guys just continue to play, and obviously we need to be much better after halftime. We made some uncharacteristic errors that gave them momentum and got the crowd into it. So just our guys' ability to stay the course and not get rattled. I mean, we've got some pretty even killed guys as is, so that's what they did.
Dusty, you are 2 for 2 at Michigan in terms of blending. And I remember talking to you last year. You didn't know if Danny Wolf and Vlad Golden could play together. They did. You won the Big Ten tournament title. You had a great run. How did you know pulling in Mara, Johnson, Lindeborg, Kadu with, Gale and Casa, all the different pieces? How did you know they would fit?
Because they're all good. I think when you have really talented players that are also smart and competitive, then you can figure out ways to win. Our game is so complex now. There's so many different styles of play, offensively, defensively, so many different ways to do it, that there is a a format that can be done in any way you want to do it. It's been done before. It's not like you're reinventing anything. And now it takes some time to do some research and homework on it. But we just thought those guys were all incredibly skilled, talented, and then we competed against Yaks and we're friends with those guys at UAB with Coach Kennedy and whatnot. So we knew that you could put him all over the court and use him as a wing. You could use him as a big. And the only thing that makes it truly unique is I think all three of those guys played the 5 at their last school, but it shows that they've worked really hard to expand their games and add more versatility. But Adai's an elite passer. Merez Johnson continues to improve in all facets, but he's a junkyard dog. And then Yaks is a connector and a superstar who's incredibly unselfish. So I think that they all kind of have these unique qualities that just mix well together. And then Cadeau is a table setter. He's a true point guard. And like Merez, he's a psycho competitor. So I think those things are probably as important as anything.
I want to follow up on that because it's really important. You keep saying this guy's a psycho competitor, and first of all, what kind of homework are you doing on that to really decide that? And then also, how can you be sure that a guy's going to be a psycho competitor after you give him hypothetically $2 million?
Well, you're never sure. And with all those guys, we were leaning on their former staffs. We were leaning on their high school coaches, their prep school coaches, and you're trying to get as much information in a short period of time as you can. Fortunately, we see these guys play so much now with the leagues being so big. And so you've seen them play 5 to 10 times each. For example, I didn't know anything about Merez Johnson as a person, but I'd watched him play, and unless he was the village idiot, we wanted him. I mean, as soon as his name went in the portal, just because of we knew how he played the game. And then after that, it's just trying to figure out if he's a good fit for your place culturally or whatnot. But we're also very flexible with how we do things. We spend a lot of time in the summer still. We're getting to know our guys. We're competing every day, so we see the levels that they can compete with and do every day. And then also some guys who aren't that are more skilled and maybe have flaws. We don't expect them to be something they're not, and we try to make sure we bring in guys that can accentuate their gifts and their talents. So.
Dusty, to this point already, you've had such a fascinating season because at the beginning of the year, you survived against Wake Forest, TCU, and then bam, you go through the stretch where you are UNLV from 90-91, and no one's within 30 points of you, and then it settles down again. You're still winning, you're in close games, but how did you ride that wave from close to blowing everyone out to back to close again?
Well, because of preseason injuries all fall, we didn't have our group together. And so we believed that Merez and Adai and Yaks could play together. We really hadn't seen it because in the summer, they were going against each other because we're trying to get better and improve and compete. And then once we get into fall, we start working more with lineups and things like that. Well, one of them was injured, and then as soon as he came back, the other one was injured. So they never really played together. So it was clunky at first, but we knew that it's a long season. It wasn't like one loss was going to keep us from achieving any of our goals. So we were still observing, still tinkering. And then once you have a little bit of experience, then you can start really trying to plug some holes and figure out how it's going to work. But keep in mind, too, Wake Forest is playing really well. I think they're a talented basketball team. I don't know what's happened recently. They almost beat Texas Tech the following week. And then anytime you go play at TCU, a Jamie Dixon coach team, it's going to be difficult. They have a good roster. They've had some really, really good moments as well. So we weren't near as down on ourselves as everyone else was because we thought it would take some time. And also because we respect those two programs. But then in Vegas, we started making shots and our defensive level. We were able to increase our defensive intensity and energy so much. And a couple of those guys, they weren't defending up to that point at the level we needed them to. And it was like the lights was switched on, and those guys, they just really at that point started covering for each other on both sides of the ball.
Dusty, you mentioned about Yaxel Lendeborg, and this is all relative. He was amazing in that win over Michigan State, really attacking the rim on the road, 13 for 15 from the foul line, 26 points, 12 rebounds. Early in the season, he was so gangbusters and really kind of in the conversation for National Player of the Year. It seemed like there was a little bit of a lull with him. We had heard maybe that he'd had a calf strain, that some of it was physical. I don't know how much of it is his personality, whether he gets a little bit passive at times. Again, it's relative, but what's it been like coaching him? And do you feel like maybe at times he gets a little bit too passive?
Yeah, we would love for him to be even more aggressive, but we should have just rested him and had him go back full strength. So his poor performances were immediately following his injuries. He hasn't had a bad game since he's been healthy or even before.
Dusty, I just want to go back a couple years because, we love to romanticize when the one bid league or, low major, whatever you want to call the mid major team gets to the Final Four. When you got there with Florida Atlantic, your roster now years later was littered with professional basketball players. Maybe we didn't know that, appreciate that then, but all these guys went on to a higher level. Elijah Martin goes on, wins a championship. Nick Boyd now is in the league competing against you at Wisconsin. You had Golden. What did you see then that in those guys that they were really essentially pro to be, that maybe not everyone else saw when you got them at Florida Atlantic?
Well, first of all, Andy, I wish we had more money in year one at Michigan. I would have brought a lot of those guys with us. But the finances and salary cap is the biggest constraint of recruiting who you want to recruit and who you choose to spend your money on. And so we were looking at the best value at that point. But yeah, I mean, look, when you have the depth and talent that we had, it fosters such a competitive environment every day in practice. And we play so much, and those guys were obsessed with working on their games, and they were in the gym 24/7. They loved lifting weights. They loved any competitive advantage they could find. So we knew it early on. To be honest, Andy, the year before the Final Four, we felt like we had a 25-30 win team. We had a variety of injuries. We went 1-11 in games decided by 4 points or less. And two of our injuries were point guards. Nick Boyd missed the entire season, and hence now he's able to play this year. And even then, Nick was cleared early in the season, and he came into my office and said, "Coach, I don't know what to do. I don't feel right. I'm not 100%, but I know the team needs me. What do you think I should do? I feel like everyone's down on me." And I said, "Nick, do you want me to answer as a coach or a father? Because as a coach, man, we need you. Like, we need you bad. But as a dad," I said, "I would, if you don't feel right, I wouldn't be mad at you at all if you sat out the year, because NIL is coming and you're going to be able to capitalize on this extra year." And I don't know, I haven't seen his W-2s, but I think it's worked out well for him individually. He played in the Final Four, and he has me in his corner for life. And he's other than running our undefeated season, he's there's a very, very special place in our family's hearts. But no, we knew those guys were all really good, and we knew they were sacrificing. The year everyone came back, we thought it was a calculated risk bringing everyone back, and it was probably selfish on my part because it was such a great story. In reality, a couple of those guys probably should have went because they were too good to be backups or to sit out again.
All right, Dusty, last question. I'm going to put you on the spot, but there's no wrong answer here. Okay, let's have a little fun. You get to name your all-time starting five, but they have to have played at the University of Michigan. Go.
Ooh,
Oh, wow.
all-time, I mean, golly, you have, Jamal Crawford played here, so you got to throw him in with some of those Fab Five guys. I'm going Jamal. I'm going C-Web, obviously. Jalen Rose. Those are three automatics. Man, Glenn Rice. How do you not go with Glenn Rice? That's four. Wow. Our gym is the nickname is the house that Kazzy built. So even though I didn't see Kazzy, I'm going to go with Kazzy Russell, Rudy Tomjanovich. I mean,
I was going to say, you're bringing Juwan off the bench there. Juwan's your seventh man. Is that? I just want to be clear.
Yeah, Juwan's a rotation guy. Yeah,
I'm sure he'd be thrilled playing spot minutes for you. That's awesome. So anyway,
there's been a lot of great players. It's Juwan or Glenn Rice, probably that power forward spot, and it's been now the modern basketball movement. We're going to go with Glenn at the four.
Okay, I think even Andy Katz could coach that team to a couple of wins. Anyway, Dusty, you guys have been a great story. We really appreciate you taking your time to join us on the Hoops HQ show, and keep winning so we can have you back.
Definitely. I appreciate you guys.
Thanks, Dusty.
Thanks, Dusty.
See you guys.
All right, Andy Katz and I are going to wrap up the Hoops HQ show with some burning questions, and I'm going to start with question is Kentucky back? The Kentucky Wildcats, the drama queens of college basketball. It is so college basketball that after they got embarrassed by 25 points at Vanderbilt, they go into Arkansas after John Calipari won in Lexington last year at a time when Arkansas was playing really poorly, and Kentucky controlled the game throughout, ended up winning 85-77. And don't look now, but they've now won 6 of the last 7. They've hit their stride. The Vanderbilt game was really bad. So, yeah, I'm going to say yes, Kentucky's back. One thing I've noticed, Andy, is that, Denzel Aberdeen, I think, is settling in at the point. But I also like what I'm seeing from Otega Owe. He played really well against Arkansas. He is not settling for the soft jumpers anymore. He seems to be attacking the rim, getting to the foul line a lot more. He was the preseason SEC Player of the Year. Jaden Quaintance, his knee is still not right. It might not ever be right. Yeah, I'm going to say Kentucky is back. What say you, my friend?
Yeah, I mean, but this is also the SEC right now. There isn't a team that's going to run away with it, as what happened on Sunday with Florida, smacking Alabama around. And, Florida had just come off, they had lost the week before. So I think that for now, Kentucky's back, but they, win at Arkansas, they could lose next week. And could lose badly. That's just who they are.
That's it. They got Oklahoma and Tennessee at home this week. So let's see if they get a couple of W's there. Okay. Pertinent question number 2. The replay review system with the coaches challenge. There's challenges, there's reviews, there's appeals. It's very confusing. All in all, Andy, do you think it's working?
I do, actually. And because what I've seen, and I've been covering a lot of games this season already, is we're seeing coaches look back to their staff. Everyone has an iPad now behind the bench. Should I challenge it? And, I've seen a number of times where the coach or the players on the court are like, doing the old symbol of twirling the finger. And then they'll say, no. Here's what we saw. We shouldn't. And then, if it's conclusive for them, they have. So for the most part, I think it's working. I do think what happened at the end of the Indiana-UCLA game, that still is going to occur because there was a challenge at the end on an out-of-bounds play in the second overtime. And at least everyone that watched it, I watched it, it clearly looked like it was off Indiana, but it wasn't enough to overturn it according to the 3 officials. Indiana keeps the ball. They get fouled with 0.3 of a second left on the inbounds. They win the game by 1. And Mick Cronin obviously had every right to sort of be upset by that. Wasn't why they lost, because they put themselves in position. But still, it's not a perfect science. And so there are going to be mistakes. And that, I think, was one of them. But for the most part, I think it is working.
I agree with you about the incorrect call in that game, by the way. I think what's really working is that the end of the games have gotten much better. Unfortunately, we know what's going to happen in the NCAA tournament because you're going to get a lot of people watching who haven't been following the sport all year, and they don't understand that referees are not able to review out-of-bounds calls at any point in the game. So you're going to have a situation late in the game, coaches out of challenges, and there's going to be a bad out-of-bounds call, and no one's going to be able to review and reverse it. But, there's some things to tweak. The whole appeal thing is a disaster. We don't need to get into it. But basically, it has made the end of games better, and that's a good thing. So anyway, that's going to wrap it up for this edition of the Hoops HQ. Thanks again to Dusty May for joining us. Thanks, everybody, for watching in. Once again, remind everybody, subscribe to HoopsHQ.com. We got content across the board, transfer portal, NBA mock draft, WNBA mock draft, betting tips, rankings, bracketology, Brad Wachtel. It's all ramping up towards March Madness, and we got our sale on an annual subscription, $20.26 for 1 year. Go to HoopsHQ.com/subscribe. For Andy Katz, I'm Seth Davis. Thanks for joining us on the Hoops HQ show.